Rogers, and I'm with Jackie Magnol, Chair of the Nursing Department at Jamestown College, and this is Spotlight in the Sun. Jackie, I understand you just got back on your annual trip to Chogoria, Kenya. Can you tell me why the college nursing department takes this trip every year?
We go to Chogoria, Kenya, an area deep in the jungles of Kenya, where we work at a 300-bed hospital there, and the student nurses just get the experience of their life working with AIDS patients and leprosy patients and malaria patients and people with tropical diseases and other illnesses that we have very little exposure to in the United States.
Okay. When did you leave and when did you get back?
I think we left February 8th, and we got back March 4th. So we were there about 3.5 weeks.
Okay. Well, as a medical professional, what were the hospitals like compared to here in the United States?
The hospital is something that you really can only imagine. It looks like something maybe out of the hospital here in the 1920s. Very low technology, very low in just supplies. They do what they can with what they have, which is very little. They reuse sheets. The bed sheets are used as towels and washcloths, or the patients may be laying on a bare mattress with no sheets at all. Medications, pain medications in particular, seem to be minimum. The IV fluids are homemade and manufactured in the hospital there. So many things that we used to see here in the 1920s.
Okay. What do the students, the nursing students, learn from working in an environment that's about 80 or 90 years ago?
You know, they learn, number one, how handicapped they are by not having immediate access to technology. They didn't know, for example, how to take a temperature with a mercury thermometer because it's something we just don't use anymore. But they also they learn the value of just plain hands-on basic caring and the effect and the impact that it has on sick people.
Okay. You were about halfway around the world. I imagine it must have been quite a culture shock, even though you've been there before. Can you talk about that a little bit?
It is a culture shock, and I think the first thing the students notice is that what it's like to be in the minority, and what it's like to have children cry and run away when they see you. We had one little orphan child asked if we were going to eat her when we walked into the room. So people point at us, people double take, and they yell, "Muzungu, Muzungu." We heard that word all the time, and what that is a Swahili word for white person. So that's something that they learn right away, that what it's like to be a minority person. Secondly, they learn that people are kind and good and have a good sense of humor no matter where you go. So they learn of the goodness of those people. That's a very important piece of this trip.
Okay. The next question was, well, how hospitable were they over there in Chogoria?
Aside from the occasional crying child, they really are very friendly. They are willing to help us in any way. Their English is actually very good. Most of the people in Kenya speak 3 languages. They speak their tribal language, which might be Kukuru or Meru. They speak Swahili, which is the national language of Kenya, and then they speak English. From the time they begin in school, they learn English. So actually, they have fairly good English skills, and we are able to communicate with relative ease.
Okay. And food. Now, that's a big thing. What did you guys decide on while you were over there?
Food is plentiful in the Chogoria region, not so in its adjoining areas such as Tharaka, because it's a lush jungle region. So there are beautiful fruits, pineapples and bananas and mangoes and papaya. But the staple food is rice, beans, and cabbage, and that is what we essentially ate for 3.5 weeks, 2 meals a day, rice, beans, and cabbage. So.
Okay. Well, I understand that you worked with the nursing students to actually sing and develop a bit of a choir with the group.
Yes.
Why is that?
The people of Kenya, the children especially, have no playground equipment, no TV, nothing to amuse themselves. So they do. They amuse themselves by singing and singing and singing. At 8 o'clock in the morning, you are awakened, or 7 in the morning, awakened by the girls in the boarding school singing and singing. So they have beautiful voices and they sing beautiful songs. And they expect that we have that same skill and expect us to come knowing a song or two. So this year we came prepared and we learned a couple of songs. And I must say, we didn't embarrass ourselves. We were quite good, thank you.
Okay. And as someone who's worked here, and you've been here before, and what do you think, in your opinion, what was the biggest surprise to you about us seeing these 300-bed hospitals and going to villages, and what really took you by surprise this time around?
What took me by surprise? The same thing that has taken me by surprise the other 2 times I have gone, and that is simply these people have nothing. They may or may not have shoes. They may or may not have a piece of furniture in their home. They may or may not have a dish to eat on. They subsist with minimal things. In the Chagoria Hospital, in other words, or the Chagoria area where the hospital is, they are relatively more well off, relatively more modernized. They have cell phones, they have running water, they have electricity. But immediately beyond that, in the small villages in and around Chagoria, they subsist on a very minimal level, and yet they thank God. They believe they are rich because they have abundant food. So it makes you really feel ashamed for our embarrassment of riches in the United States. And that surprises me every year when I come home and realize how much stuff I have.
Okay, well, I understand that community members have kind of come together and donated a whole bunch of stuff for you to take with. What were some of these donations that you took down there?
You know, that is another annual surprise for me, is how generous the Jamestown community is. They just are so willing to give and give. We sent out emails and made some phone calls. We needed some books. We needed some Beanie Babies. We needed some pain medications. We took with us, I can't even tell you the number of pounds. Each of us had 90 pounds of equipment, supplies, medications, and books to take to Chagoria. We each carried with us. Roosevelt School was amazing. They gave us, oh boy, I forgot to bring the numbers. It was 1,000 books that they gave. Individual people and groups in the community donated pain medications. We took along, I think it was over 600 Beanie Babies. We wanted a few Beanie Babies to give to the little kids in the hospital who were afraid of us, and we inundated the jungle with Beanie Babies. We inundated the jungle and the orphanages with notebooks and school books and pencils and school supplies, and it was amazing the amount of equipment or supplies that we were actually able to take. So thank you, Jamestown community, for your amazing generosity.
All right. Well, Jackie, thanks a lot for coming down here and talking to me today about your trip to Kenya.
It's always fun.
Right. Well, thanks again. This has been Spotlight in the Sun.